So Buatsi is back and he's fighting Zach Parker. Here's a question. Can Buatsi be a world champion? Can Buatsi be an elite level fighter? Or is he just a good fighter? And what does Buatsi need to improve on to increase his chances of success? And what fights are there, or what fights are out there for Buatsi? I feel like, I like Buatsi and I think he has got some really good potential. The one thing I like about Buatsi is that he strikes me as a person that he's committed. And I think I'm drawn to people that just do the work. I feel like he's not a talker, he's a doer. And I feel that Buatsi is a respectful person. So I think outside the ring, or the way he conducts himself outside the ring, is commendable. And I also think he actually had a good performance against Callum Smith. Was this poor matchmaking? Or was it just... Is it poor matchmaking, or if you believe in your fighter, do you just throw him in with the lions because you believe that your fighter is the biggest lion or the strongest lion? I think many people, considering the performance that Callum Smith had against Butabuev, considering that performance, I think if you analyze that performance objectively, you may consider that Callum Smith was not only the fighter that he once was, but now he's lost his punch resilience and he doesn't have the timing that he used to have. In other words, he's a shell of the fighter that he was. I remember when Callum Smith beat George Groves, and I remember being amazed by how good that performance was. But Buatsi showed a lot in that performance. He showed great character. He had to overcome a lot. He actually did try some old pro tricks, but Callum Smith was an old pro as well. It's hard to outfox the fox, and they were both like foxes in there. And both of them they put it all on the line. And I think Callum Smith had a phenomenal performance that night. He had a lot to prove. A lot of people had written him off. And I think Buatsi brought a lot to the table. And Callum Smith brought a lot to the table. But even in the face of adversity, or should I say, I think it's Teddy Atlas that used the term that the ring is like the chamber of truth. And we saw in the chamber of truth that Buatsi is a warrior. When it gets hard, he stays in there. And not only did he survive some of the barrages of punches, you could see that he was actually looking for opportunities. He was looking for opportunities. As Callum Smith would let his hands go, he would stay calm, which is the right thing to do, and then he would fire back. And Buatsi can take a lot from that performance. He really can. So what did Buatsi did well? Well, I have some notes here. So one of the things he does well, and this is typical of anyone who trains with Virgil Hunter, high quality trainer, he has a small target. The target is small. He doesn't fight tall. So it's a small target. You have to punch down at the target. He has creative punch innovation. Buatsi throws different types of punches. As he showed in this fight, he has strong punching resistance. He definitely has good punching resistance. And he showed that against Callum Smith, who's a good puncher. And he has great explosiveness. At times, he'll just burst into action. He almost reminds me a bit of an Evander Holyfield type fighter, where he'll go quiet, he'll wait, and then he'll explode with a flurry of punches. But clearly there are some things to work on. I actually think Joshua Buatsi does have a good output. It's easy to say that he needs to improve his output, but it's just Callum Smith just had a really good output that night. So you can't really criticize the stamina, but I think that Buatsi could use his jab more. And I think where he shoots the jab is important as well. I'd like to see more jabs to the chest. I know Virgil Hunter is an advocate for the jab to the chest. So just more jabs, more variations with the jabs. more of an investment to the body. Definitely more of an investment to the body. And even though his punch creativity is good, he can still further develop his punch creativity. So I think I'm not too familiar with Zach Parker. I need to look deeper into his CV. But I think that when we talk about Buatsi in terms of can he be an elite level fighter, can he be a good fighter, can he be a great fighter? Of course, we need to acknowledge in boxing there's different levels. There's British level, there's European level, and then there's contender level, and then there's being a champion. And I think with Buatsi, what you can objectively say is that because of his commitment to the sport, because of his commitment, he can reach his ceiling. And it's hard to define what that ceiling is. At the very least, you would say a credible world title contender. But I believe that on the right night, Buatsi could be a world champion. So what fights are out there for Buatsi? I think the Anthony Yarde fight is a massive fight. That's a massive fight. And if I was Buatsi, I'd really fancy myself in that fight. Yes, Anthony Yarde has a puncher's chance and he punches really hard. And he has a really good CV. Anthony Yarde has a really good CV against elite level fighters. But Buatsi can outwork him. And Buatsi has shown that he has good punch resilience. So I think Buatsi would fancy his chances in that fight. And economically, I think that should be a great a good payday. And I think there's public interest into that fight because Anthony Yarde has had a lot of exposure. He's had a lot of good fighting performances and he's a presence. You know, the boxing, he interacts with the boxing media. And I think that fight could make economic sense, but also I think their styles could gel very well. And that could be a really good tear up. I definitely think there would probably be some motion for a rematch. Of course, you have the Callum Smith too. Now, I think the Callum Smith fight was amazing. I think it was a great fight. And I think the rematch, there's no reason to think the rematch would not be a great fight. Don't think he should just jump into that, but I think redemption potentially down the line, you know, it'll be good for his confidence, but also I think that it's hard to say. Would the British you would think that the British public, considering that they saw the first fight and the first fight was such a grueling affair, you would think that the public would buy into the rematch. But could it be a main event? I'm not sure. It could be a main event, but when there's different types of main events, could it be a pay-per-view? Maybe not right now, but it's definitely a fight that will have some level of interest. And of course, there'll be some good paydays there. And let's not forget, let's not undermine Callum Smith. I mean, he's fought George Groves, he fought Canelo. Again, he has an extensive CV. And then we have the Beterbiev fight. And of course, when you talk about Beterbiev, you're talking about someone who has fought, you know, on major cards. He's headlined events, noticeably the Bivol fight, the second Bivol fight, and the first Bivol fight. He brings, not only does he bring media awareness, but people know, or people have that confidence that when Beterbiev comes to the ring, you're going to probably get a knockout and you're probably going to get a really good fight. So this again could be a match that, you know, that people could get behind. But I think that Buatsi he definitely needs to go through the rebuilding process to enable him to qualify, not to qualify in terms of is he ready to, because there's different levels of qualifications. There's, are you ready to fight him? But also there's that whole thing is, does the public desire that fight? But it's still, even now, it would still be a relatively big fight. But if Buatsi is able to notch up some wins, able to build some confidence, able to have some good victories, then these fights can get exponentially bigger. The biggest fight right now, I think, for him is the Anthony Yarde fight. And then obviously there's a new variable of a new promotional team. We have the same trainer, Virgil Hunter. I think Virgil Hunter's a good trainer. He trained Andre Ward. And that in itself speaks volumes. He was the main guy behind Andre Ward. And Andre Ward was an amazing fighter. And, typically Virgil Hunter, he has a training system that locks into harnessing your boxing IQ. And from what I understand, that Virgil Hunter, he adopts like a father figure role with many of his fighters. And I think it's good that they're still maintaining that professional relationship, because I think Buatsi does have potential, and I do believe that he can still go places.